So at the end of this lesson, I want to talk about some troubleshooting tips regarding Keystone services. To start with, you need to recognize Keystone problems. As Keystone typically is a backend service, the problem might manifest itself in some other service. For example, you try to do something with glance. You want to add an image and that doesn't work. So make sure that the problem is related to Keystone, not to the service that you are currently working with. Log files will help you analyzing that. So as you have already seen, every service has its log file in a var log service name. You know what? Let's have a look at some of those log files. So if you go to var log and do an ls, you can see that there is a Horizon, a Keystone, a RabbitMQ, a Swift, and a Neutron, and all the OpenStack projects have their own log subdirectory. I just want you to be aware of what is logged in the Keystone log file. So if we do ls on keystone.log, we can see the information. A lot of info. And info typically is not that useful. So I would suggest using grep-v info on keystone.log and see what is remaining. Now here you can see the important messages that we've seen so far. So this is really Keystone related. And this is what you should do in order to find out if it is Keystone or something else. So all the services that I use in Keystone are using an authorization URL. This is the endpoint. And the endpoint really is something that is important for the service and that you can show using Keystone endpoint list, as we have seen in the previous sublesson. Also important are the settings from the Keystone rc_admin, supposing that you are currently working as admin user. So if a service tries to authenticate using Keystone, service token, service endpoint are defined. They are typically in the service configuration file. Use your Keystone endpoint list to find out what exactly Keystone is expecting and make sure it matches the configuration file. Another problem that you can have with Keystone is that the authentication itself doesn't work. You can look for the invalid OpenStack credentials message. And if you've got this message, then you may set the service token and the service endpoint again. But that is pretty rare. And basically, if you've got the invalid OpenStack credentials message, that typically comes from a Keystone RC admin that hasn't been sourced the way it should. And that is all I want to share with you about Keystone troubleshooting. Let me summarize the most important parts of Keystone troubleshooting. If you have installed OpenStack with Packstack, typically the services and Keystone will be well connected. So you won't see any problem there, and there won't be much need to go into the service configuration file and fix stuff there, because Packstack has done it automatically for you. So everything that can happen regarding Keystone is authentication problems with end users trying to connect to Keystone services. And that is typically fixed through the Keystone RC files. One more thing I want to show you about those. I'm in the home directory of user root. We have seen the Keystone RC admin file. Notice that there is also a Keystone RC user file. So the Keystone RC user file contains everything that is needed for the user to authenticate. Notice the differences. We have a tenant name that is set to workshop, whereas the tenant name for admin is set to admin. We have the username and we have the password, and we can also see that the authentication URL is slightly different. Instead of going to port 5000, which is the admin port, the user goes to port 35357, which is the typical user point. So this might be useful information to do troubleshooting on Keystone services as well. And that's all that you need to know about Keystone. Let's move on.